Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard. Thank you for watching today's Northeast Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. So you look at the last 48 hours of precipitation across the entire lower 48 region here. A couple corridors of more significant precipitation stand out, and one of those is here across parts of the northeast region here. We watch this frontal boundary slowly make its way across the region, bringing in that cooler and much less humid air mass here, bringing relief from the Corn Belt into the northeast region here, relief from that heat, and again, some showers and storms in store for some. Some of those storms were stronger than others, and we had quite a bit of severe weather across parts of the northeast region. As we look at this area here, kind of closer to the Atlantic coast, quite a few wind damage reports. Some of those were significant across parts of the northeast region here. But again, as we look at the last 14 days of precipitation here in terms of a departure from average, a percent of normal, and we do have quite a few dry spots remaining as we look across the northeast here. So not everyone benefiting from these showers and storms over the last 2 weeks. So we'll kind of take a look at when we can expect our next round moving through the region. It is a little bit off into the future here as we deal with a much different air mass across not only the northeast region, but all the way back into parts of the Midwest over the next 7 to 10 days. Checking back in with the hazards map, very different look than what we saw just a few days ago on Friday morning, where we had excessive heat warnings all the way from parts of the Midwest here into the Northeast region, heat advisories surrounding that. A very different picture here today. We are all clear of that, and a very calm picture across the eastern two-thirds of the United States. So we look at a snapshot view here, precipitation for the next 2 weeks, week 1 on the left, week 2 on the right. Going to be dealing with a much drier pattern from the Corn Belt into the Northeast here over the next week, but as we shift into week 2, maybe bringing things back closer to average as we go from a pattern here where we've got this big ridge over the western U.S. and kind of flatten things out, allowing disturbances to travel along that. We'll have to be looking for the details of those individual disturbances as we get into next week. We'll kind of tease it here, but I want to try and leave the details as much as I can for right now for next week. Temperature anomalies for the next 10 days here. The first 5 days on the left, a much cooler, much less humid air mass dominating the eastern two-thirds of the country. As we get into the next 5 days that follow that, the end of July into early August, a bit misleading here. We are going to be transitioning to a warmer pattern across a big chunk of the Corn Belt here getting into the Northeast. We do see those warmer anomalies here in the Northeast, but the cooler picture here across the central United States is going to be eroding here as we get into the weekend and then beyond that. Looking at the current picture here on Tuesday morning, here is the area of low pressure and the frontal boundary. We saw showers and storms develop along yesterday. We do have some lingering precipitation in coastal areas here. That'll be lifting off to the north and to the east as we head through the rest of the day today. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at, first this dominant ridge of this surface high that's keeping things dry and cooler and less humid across the central and eastern United States. That'll slowly move off to the east, keeping things dry, less humid across the northeast region here for much of the week. We're going to be watching an area of developing low pressure across the Canadian prairies. That's going to intensify as we head into Thursday. Here's the picture Thursday morning. Here is that low across the Canadian prairies, a cold front extending off south of that, and that's going to bring some shower and storm activity to the Dakotas and the Great Lakes. That may eventually push off to the east as we head into the weekend and early next week. We see this small little clipper system kind of sneaking south here, maybe bringing some scattered to probably more isolated light rain showers Thursday across parts of the northeast region. But the next significant chance of rain going to be associated with this area of low pressure, this front, as it moves off to the east late next week. And then again, a little beyond that, we'll just save the details for that as we get. I'm going to get ahead of myself here, but let's keep it short term right now. Let's look at the high resolution rapid refresh model. Take this out for the next day or so. We see this area of rain in the coastal areas as we look at Tuesday afternoon and evening into Wednesday morning. Otherwise, this begins to lift off to the north and to the east, keeping much of the northeast region here dry over the next day and a half. Looking at the dew points here, we continue to see this drier air mass pushing in. Again, this is one that doesn't favor significant rainfall. It doesn't favor those big clusters of storms. It doesn't favor those tropical downpours and significant rainfall. So again, this air mass is just not supportive of widespread precipitation, at least for the next several days. So you look at the high-resolution NAM model. This one will take us out a little bit further. Here is the precipitation here Tuesday morning. We're going to watch this kind of linger through the day Tuesday into perhaps early Wednesday morning as this last area of low pressure travels along that frontal boundary, lifting north-northeast. Let's go ahead and we'll just play it as we get into now Wednesday morning, seeing that rain exit the area, perhaps some light showers moving into the area Thursday, but not even picking those up here with the high-resolution NAM model. Off to the west, you do see the shower and storm activity begin to organize with that area of low pressure across the Canadian prairies, with the cold front extending off to the south. And again, this moves in our direction as we head into the end of the week. Total precipitation forecast from the high-resolution NAM model taking us through Thursday morning. Again, watching this precipitation here along coastal areas, lifting out of the region by the time we get into early Wednesday, with very light precipitation expected elsewhere, most areas remaining dry. Taking a look at the pattern, though, where are we going beyond this? We'll look at the jet stream. We're going to go ahead and bring it back here with our long-range European model. Here's the ridge axis now. This broad upper-level trough across the eastern United States. And again, that surface high pressure right here, keeping things much cooler and less humid across the central and the eastern United States. So we play this out, though. We're getting into midweek. Now into late week, here's that area for low pressure traveling across the Canadian prairies. That's bringing precipitation opportunities to the Dakotas and to the upper Midwest. That dives into our area late in the week, but really begins to wash out because we've got this area of high pressure now, some ridging across the eastern two-thirds of the United States. So the more significant precipitation chance is going to be holding off until we get to the back half of the weekend into early next week, when we start to shift to a flatter pattern with disturbances traveling along that, bringing rainfall opportunities back to parts of the Corn Belt, namely the northern plains into the upper Midwest, and then perhaps the eastern Corn Belt, and then spotty areas of the northeast region, perhaps getting in on some of that precipitation as we get into next week. We'll look at that here with the European model precipitation forecast here. We'll bring it back. We'll start Tuesday. Again, watching this rain exit the area Tuesday into early Wednesday. Moving into mid to late week now, very dry across the eastern two-thirds of the country from the Corn Belt into the northeast region. Again, this is a very dry pattern, drier air mass that just doesn't support widespread showers and storms. We get into Friday morning. Here is that area of low pressure with the cold front bringing showers and storms to the Dakotas into the upper Midwest. As we get into early next week, here's that next storm system now coming through over the weekend, bringing rain chances back to the upper Midwest into parts of the eastern Corn Belt. Here you see that frontal boundary stalling out now as we get into Monday evening. Now getting into Tuesday, here's where we start to see the rainfall chances begin to ramp back up across parts of the Corn Belt, or not the Corn Belt, the northeast region, I apologize, just did the Corn Belt. Not again, because we're bringing in a much more humid air mass back into the area, a hotter, a muggier air mass as we get into next week. And then we just have to look for the triggers for these showers and storms, and that would be in the form of, a frontal boundary, for example, like the long-range models are spitting out as we get into early next week. So dry overall until we get to early next week across the northeast region. The total precipitation forecast, of course, starting on Tuesday morning, here is what falls now Tuesday into Wednesday, this precipitation across coastal areas of the northeast. But look at that, dry overall until we get to the end of this loop, which isn't until next week. So now we're in Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll go ahead and we'll just step through time with this so you can kind of time out the precipitation across the region. Drier overall, though. Here we are all the way into Friday, getting all the way into the weekend now. And what you're seeing here, of course, this fell Tuesday and Wednesday. It's not until we get into here now Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week that we see more significant precipitation chances moving into the northeast region. The GFS model agrees. We'll just play this out quickly just to kind of wrap things up at the precipitation department. You see it's very quiet across the northeast region until here we get into early to mid next week. High temperatures for the next 5 days, just to wrap it up, much cooler, much less humid over the next several days. Here's your Tuesday high temperatures in the 70s for most folks. Warming up slightly as we head through the week, but really not taking off until we get into next week. Your Wednesday high temperatures here in the upper 70s. Thursday, upper 70s to lower 80s. Friday creeping upward, but still in the low 80s to middle 80s, which is very pleasant this time of year. And then by the time we get to Friday, or Saturday, I apologize, you're starting to see some of this heat not necessarily take off, but resuming a more typical late July pattern here with high temperatures getting closer to 90 degrees. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video. You can catch our long-range U.S.-focused ag forecast tomorrow, and I'll be back with your next Northeast regional update on Friday. Have a great day.